So today we have, if you know Marvel Legends, if you've ever heard of that, I know. Diamond Select, Gentle Giants, Articulated Icons, the one and only Adam Van Wickler here with us today, talk all these toys and such. How are you, sir? Thank you for being here.
Hi, thanks. Thanks for having me, man.
Of course. How are you doing? How's crazy times we're living in, but how's everything going otherwise?
I'm quarantined and I'm playing with myself.
Oh, well, as your Instagram name would invoke. That's how I always associate everyone, you know what I mean? When they say like, "Oh, hey," I'm like, "What's up? Playing with myself." I mean, Adam, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, I was joking about that. I think at New York Toy Fair. I don't know if you were there, but like it was during one of like the nerd herds. I think it was like maybe the Mezco one where it's like I get to walk around introducing myself and I just go like say to guys like I'm playing with myself. And they're like, "Oh, okay." And then It's like, "Oh no, the twerking Spider-Man avatar. Got it. Cool. Okay."
Yeah, and that's another thing when people like after talking with people for a while and then they change their avatar, it confuses the heck. I'm like, wait a minute, wasn't it? But keep that twerking Spider-Man because that helps in maintaining.
It's my mascot now, basically. Is like that's it's staying as is, I think.
I know what you're talking about though. With I was at the Mezco thing during Toy Fair, and I was standing in front, kind of kitty corner to that Big Gomez mannequin that they had out, and then you were off, and we kind of talked for a second, but I noticed you pulled out like a couple like customized heads, and I'm all like look, I'm like, no, don't stare, but just see what he's doing.
Yeah, I don't go anyplace without like I think that when I met you for the first time in person was at Designer Con, and like that's it. All the guys were like, whenever anyone would come up to the table to take a look at the Cursed Dead or Mortal Ruin stuff that we were showing off, they'd be like looking at me, and I'm like sitting there. I was playing with I'd bought the pink skulls, and I actually brought other Mezco figures along too, and I was like swapping parts and changing their clothes, and like I'm sitting there playing with Mezco toys while I'm supposed to be showing off, my own toys.
It just shows you're branching out. You can put your toys with the Mezco toys, right? I mean,
yeah. Or I'm just a giant nerd for all of this, man. I love toys so much that I'm surrounded by them constantly.
Yeah, well, that's why I'm so happy to get you on here and talk. I think this is gonna be very fun, especially for those listening at home. Give you something to do amidst this quarantine madness. But in talking about Designer Con and meeting you. And I got there, I don't know, maybe like an hour and a half after Designer Con had started, fully anticipating walking up to the Mezco booth and being like, "Give me a pink skulls, please, like one pink skulls." And they were gone. And the lady there goes, "They sold out in like 20 minutes." And I was like, "Are you kidding?" So I've always like beat myself up about I missed those are the ones that I missed, and I'm so bummed about that. But
I'm sorry, they're so good. Like it's like I had a booth there, and I just told the other guys, I was like, "Guys, I don't care that we're opening and we're like showing the world our stuff, and it's all a surprise. Like right now, I was like, I need to go run over to the Mezco booth and wait on this line, and like I had an exhibitor badge too, so I was able to kind of hang around a little bit right before opening. And then I'm friends with D Amazing, Darius, so he does a lot of the photography and for their stuff as well. So I was hanging out with him, and he was just like, "Yeah, this is gonna go fast." So I would think I was like number 5 in line or something. So very grateful I got them.
They always go quick, and even I think it was probably the year prior at LA Comic-Con, I waited in line to get a friend of mine, the Iron Man, and because I had a press pass, I was able to kind of walk in, and I just stood around the booth, and that line filled up fast, and between Mezco and Funko, I mean, it was like a stampede of people trying to get their exclusives. So, but that's part of the fun of going to all these conventions. Hopefully we can go back to conventions sometime soon.
Oh yeah, exactly. I mean, like that's Designer Con was like I had been to Designer Con back when it used to be in Pasadena, but this was the first Designer Con I've gone to that was in Anaheim. I think they may have done it there at least once or twice before this past one.
I think yeah, because I was there the year prior to that as design, and it was at the Anaheim. So I
Yeah.
think, but I think you're right. I think that might have been either the first or second time they had gone to Anaheim. So that's a
Yeah,
little bit closer. Yeah.
I loved it. Like I thought it was great. It Pasadena's a little bit closer to me, but I don't
Yeah.
care. Like Anaheim Convention Center, it was great. I got a hotel. I stayed down there. We had such a good show. For showing off Kirstead and Mortal Ruin. Like the people both at the show and online seem to have really dug what we were showing. So
Yeah.
we got a giant fan of stuff that we only have prototypes of so far, but we're still working on them.
Well, I even like I remember seeing before I had walked in, you guys had posted some photos. I'm like, those are looking cool. Like I want to go check those out. And then like in meeting you and then taking photos and stuff like that, everyone kept asking me like, what is this? I'm like, well, this is like the new line that they're working on, and this is how it's going to be. But when we had discussed it, I knew that there were plans. Is there have things started moving along more now? And do you have any updated information as to when people can get these or anything like that?
Yeah. Mortal Ruin's probably a little bit further down, like closer to actually launching than Kirstead is at this point. But probably not by too much. I mean, our big thing, like I'm working with two different teams. The Kirstead team is myself, Phil Ramirez, who is a prolific sculptor. He's been, sculpting toys since he was a teenager. Basically, he worked on like the old Playmates Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. He handled the lion's share of the Toybiz Marvel Legends line. It was him and Dave Cortez both, but I think Phil probably did a little bit more of that line than Cortez did. And he's still sculpting to this day. He does a lot of stuff for Mondo these days. So
okay, nice.
The high end 12-inch figures that Mondo's doing, I think Phil did the vast majority of those. So Phil's sculpting for the Kirstead, and then Josh Falcon, which that name probably sounds familiar because he is younger brother of Jesse Falcon. So he's obviously seen a lot in the toy industry, in the toy world over the course of the years, and wants to do some of his own stuff. And Phil and I have all been great friends, and Jesse's obviously a huge cheerleader for the line as well. So he's willing to throw in his opinions here and there and help cheer us along. So that's been great for Kirstead. And we have Zoom meetings, and Phil has actually, I just posted an Instagram story the other day on the Kirstead. Phil's doing some traditional sculpting for some heads and bits and pieces that we'll be doing. So we're still moving along on prototypes there. Mortal Ruin is myself, Renee Aldrete, and Scott Akers. And if those names are familiar, that's perhaps you have seen Articulated Icons and looked at the bottom of the package, because the three of us are the Articulated Icons design team. So our names are on the bottom of those ninjas that people have bought many of. So Mortal Ruin is our own thing that we're trying to make happen. It's a post-apocalyptic toy line. We're starting off with kind of the soldier element, but this line is going to have a lot of wacky, crazy stuff in it. We're just starting this way. It's going to be dark and dirty. The prototypes are pretty much done. I'm still printing out stuff. I actually just posted an Instagram story of Mortal Ruin the other day, like still printing out parts. So the printer's chugging along. But I'm also Scott, who I lovingly nicknamed Beardy because I'm super clever and he has a big beard. He's been painting prototypes. So I'm hoping to maybe in the next week, 2 weeks, start teasing some paint for Mortal Ruin. So that should be going up on Instagram and Facebook, and I'm gonna promote it like crazy on every place that will have it. And then hopefully I'm basically both teams we've been discussing, I talk to all these guys all the time. And we don't want to launch a Kickstarter campaign when things are so weird in the world right now financially for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Which it's crazy because I say that, and it's like I say that on the heels of Todd McFarlane launching a Kickstarter campaign and making $3.5 million.
How crazy! Yeah, how crazy!
I don't that's the thing. I'm like timing, like I was like, Todd, what are you doing timing wise? But then it's like, oh, okay, I guess it doesn't matter. So I say that in slightly in jest though, because I think it does matter. I think that they're probably like, even though he made $3.5 million, like he's Todd McFarlane, he has a big name. People have been clamoring and dying to get their hands on Spawn figures, but I think he probably did leave some guys out in the cold because of the current state of finances. So I don't have Todd McFarlane's name, and I don't think any of these other guys do either. So we're gonna wait a little bit longer until maybe things start to come back to normal-ish. You know, that way. Originally, I was hoping to launch Mortal Ruin at some point over the summer. It might still be late summer, might be early fall. Haven't really decided 100% on that yet, but it's mostly going to be a feel thing at this point. We're working on getting all the prototypes done. We have story elements done. I love the idea of like bios and file cards and stuff, which is something that I feel is kind of missing on Hasbro's relaunch of G.I. Joe. It's like, guys, like file cards, just to even reuse the old story stuff and everything. Like those file cards are like, the file card and the box art is what like made me fall so in love with G.I. Joe when I was a kid. And it's like, they're putting this line out and it's like, you're trying to get, like, obviously guys like you and me who grew up with the line and loved it, which it's like, cool, that's easy. Like, we're easy to get, but to get new people, like art and file cards with little story stuff, like that stuff is great. I can't believe that they didn't do that on this new line. Like, I'm like,
yeah. No, I think I agree with you, because I literally just got off the phone with the company that acquired like a new property. And that was part of the discussion, was like, kids today need a little bit of oomph to them to go outside and play in the mud and everything else. And I remember, even if you didn't know who the character was, let's say Ninja Turtles, you flip it over and there's like stats and they had nicknames for the characters and what they're known for, and like a huge paragraph with the cool art, and you clip it out, you save it. And I'll be honest with you, with the AOA Marvel Legends wave, I cut up David Nakayama's art and kept aside boxes and things like that. So I still do it. But the thing I didn't save was the bio, kind of, because it's like always like a one sentence, like Spider-Man swings in to save the day. It's like,
right.
Fuck.
It's a little bit phoned in, even if but that's like, at least it's there, like it's something. But like the fact that it's like G.I. Joe, where it's their own IP and they already have that info, like it's like that they own it all. So it's like they could have just, copy pasted some stuff and like, Conrad Hauser, Duke, and like, come on, like give me a little bit of backstory. And like the great thing, like what I love about that so much and why I'm pushing on it, we did it for Articulated Icons, and then we started already teasing it with both The Cursed Dead and Mortal Ruin, where it's like on the Instagram pages, if you go to certain characters, like I've already started posting some of the little bits of story elements that we've been coming up with. And it's like, the thing is like, I don't think it hurts ever. It's, if people don't want it and want to ignore it, and they just want like a vampire to go with their Mezco 1/12 blade figure, cool. The Cursed Dead vampire, use it like that. But if you want story, we have the story. And then the same thing goes with Mortal Ruin. If you want to buy a couple like SWAT looking gas mask guys to like fight Batman or take down Joker or something, like, cool. Or if you want to read our storyline and like start assembling a Mortal Ruin shelf, thank you. Like,
Yeah.
more power to you. That's great. That's exactly, like, I want people to be able to integrate it if they want to, or to like collect it for its own line. So I feel like stuff like bio file card, stuff like that, it's just it doesn't hurt. It only helps.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's a little something fun, like years and years and years later, if you were to say, like, let's do that, especially with, older toys and stuff. When people say, yeah, I cut these out myself and I put them in a plastic bag, and I found the bag the other day, of all the different it's instruction booklets, especially like Transformers and everything else. It's just something fun to add to like the completeness of a figure once in a while. So yeah, I totally agree. We need more of that. Yeah.
My mom and dad, they're still back in New York. That whenever they're like they go down into the basement and are cleaning out, all the toys and stuff from my brother and I, like, since we don't live there anymore. And like, I'm like, would make sure that you send me a picture of everything first. And it's like stuff like file cards and everything. I'm like, I actually had my mom send out a box of, I had a lot of the Marvel Universe trading cards. I collected trading cards when I was younger. Yeah. So those are like, I collected many, many years of those, and they were all in like binder sleeves and stuff. I had the Jim Lee X-Men set in the little collectible tin. So I had her send the whole box of all of my trading cards to Gentle Giant, and I actually have them all at work at Gentle Giant because we like refer to them, when we're working on, new Marvel Legends or new Marvel Select. It's like, let's bust out the trading cards, man. Like, and it's like everyone has fond memories of those, and they're very much the same thing as like a file card. It's the character art, their powers, and their different power levels and their specialties and a little blurb of info. And it's like, that stuff's so fun, man.
Yeah, even in bringing that up, because in collecting Toybiz figures back in the day, not all the time. Let's say Spider-Man the animated series, or even X-Men to some degree, you wouldn't always know who that character was. Sometimes it's really obscure, and those collector cards, you're absolutely right. I would get that, and I'd go, oh, and on the back it would give you like, powers and abilities, and then you'd get a little quick thing. This is all before the internet, and how you could just literally type it into Google and tell you everything you need to know. But this was how we used to find out about various weird characters of different comic books and stuff when you didn't necessarily have them. Yeah.
You mean like the Nasty Boys, like that random mutant team?
Yeah.
Which is funny because it's like no one ever asks about getting the Nasty Boys in Marvel Legends.
I wouldn't mind. I tell you what, the thing I love best about Legends though is the obscure characters. Like when you come out with like a Black Widow wave, and we got the Black Widows and Winter Soldier and stuff, and everyone says to me, well, what's your favorite one? Is it Black Widow? I'm like, no, it was Spy Master. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Spy Master? I'm like, I don't have a Spy Master thing. I don't have it in Toybiz. I don't have it in anything. So when you get those more weirdo characters, then it causes me to even do, like I do those Who in the Holy Heck videos sometimes. I had no idea, couldn't tell you about Spy Master, but now I can. I'd be like, yeah, he's an Iron Man villain. He'll go with this too. He'll go with this. He's dead. He's alive. It's so many weird things from the elements of comics, but at least it promotes you. And this is how I did back in the day. I didn't know a character. I had to do research in order to figure out who it was. So.
No, that's exactly, like, that's great. And then the cool thing is that like it dates back like before I even started working on Legends. I was working with Dave Vonner on the Marvel Universe line. We didn't start out the Marvel Universe line with Vonner, but Vonner likes to tell stories that, like, at Comic-Con, I think it was back in like 2008 or something. I met him at a party, like either Damon or Jesse introduced me to him, and I was just like, yo, man, you gotta let me work on this line with you. I'm such a giant Marvel nerd. And he says that I was like spitting all over him and stuff. He likes it. Honor is very theatrical, and I love him for it. But thankfully he did let us work on the line, and then we pretty much, it became like Dave Vonner, Hasbro, and Gentle Giant working on the Marvel Universe line, and we got to do so many cool things. We actually one of the cool things that I think that came out of that is the side to side ankles. We actually that were introduced in Marvel Legends, and everyone likes them, ankle rockers.
Mm-hmm.
We did that first in Marvel Universe. I think it was the SDCC exclusive World War II Ultimate Captain America. I believe that was the first Hasbro figure that had those ankle joints.
Okay.
So we did that there, and then we had started working on Legends afterwards and introduced them into Legends as well. But I digress. I wanted to say about random characters, because Vonner and I got to do some really random characters in Marvel Universe, because I guess no one at Hasbro told him no. So we got to just come up with stuff where it was like, hey, if we reuse some parts, we can make some new parts and make this character. And one of my favorites is we reused some Colossus parts to make Death's Head, which is a Marvel Comics Transformers character. I have no idea how, legally how he got away with it, because I think it's one of those weird things where it's oh, is it a Transformers intellectual property? Is it a Marvel intellectual property? Is it, who owns this? And it's that's one of the beautiful things about Dave Vonner is he's able to get away with stuff, and he got Death's Head into the line, and it's I was so ecstatic about that, because I think everyone let out a resounding "who" when I was thrown off.
And it's funny because you guys did Death's Head 2 later for Legends, and I was sitting there going oh, okay, they're gonna make Death's Head 1, so I could put it with being he's larger, I could put it with Starscream, Optimus Prime, things like that. But no, that's
nope, Death's Head 2, totally random. I know. It's and I had those. I had the Death's Head 2 comics back in the day, because I went to the comic book shop every week for new comics. I don't do that as much anymore. I now do Marvel Digital Unlimited, so I'm a little bit behind. But I was running out of space basically, so
yeah.
I've had to transfer over to mostly digital comics, and I buy trades here and there as well. But Death's Head 2 is a character that's no, I knew all about him. It was just that, and we did work on that one for Hasbro. We did do the digital prototyping, and I was just wow, I can't believe we're gonna do Death's Head 2.
That was one, and especially for being in the Guardians wave. When you guys announced it and everything, I was I know the character, it happens a lot. Let's say recently with White Rabbit, that one threw me for a loop. But it's I know this character from somewhere. I can't tell you exactly, but it's so random that it's fun, and that figure came out fantastic. You know what I mean? So
I'll let Eddie Mosqueda know. He sculpted that, but he's a Gentle Giant employee.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, he, being that it's a Spider-Man character. And she also used to, be incorporated with a character that I really liked, which was Frogman or Froggy, with the spring heels and stuff like that, which I wouldn't mind in Marvel Legends with that, later down the road, because those are some of the comics that were given to me, either by my dad or friends and stuff. And that's kind of where you started with Spider-Man for me. So seeing those types of characters, I was oh, this is fantastic. You know what I mean? Now you're bringing all these old things back. It's always awesome.
Agreed. I did as someone who grew up as a comic book nerd, and I grew up with the Mego figures, both the 8-inch Megos and then their 3 3/4-inch line, which was great because you had Marvel and DC in the same scale. So it's I totally understand every fanboy desire of having them, be cohesive, even though it's never really going to happen because, no one wants to admit that the other company has their stuff together and whatever, it is what it is. I want that as well. So growing up with that, and then the Mattel Secret Wars Marvel figures, I loved those as a kid. And then there was nothing Marvel for like it seemed like forever until the Toybiz 5-inch line, and I was like
Yeah.
deep into that as well. Loved that so much.
Were you a fan of the animated series, either X-Men or
I
Fantastic Four, Power Hour, Spider-Man, the animated
I
series?
I mean like I was born in 1978, so
Hmm.
I'm 41. I was huge into Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. Like that was
Hmm.
like literally definitive cartoon for me. But I watched X-Men the animated series. I was reading the comics. I preferred the comics, but I thought the animated series was cool. I watched the Spider-Man animated series that came out around that same time as well. I
Hmm.
did not watch like Fantastic Four, Silver Surfer, Hulk as much. I think those came a little bit later, and like I was like, the comics are better, Like I was very snobbish about that. But I
They were
did
hard to watch. Like,
I bought the toys. Like that's
yeah,
the thing. It's like I did appreciate that like they spawned toy lines that like went pretty deep and like I got good
yeah.
toys of it. But yeah, the cartoons themselves weren't as important to me, but X-Men animated series. I mean, like every time I open up a Marvel Legend X-Men character, that theme song is playing in my head.
Oh yeah, yeah. Especially Wolverine. You got Cal Dodd's voice in your. He's the
Oh,
voice of
absolutely.
Wolverine to me. And but in saying like the animated series were like hard to watch. I'm in that in the sense of they were thrown around all over the networks and time slots and everything. So if you ever caught them, it was like a miracle. They just didn't know where to place them. So those were Silver Surfer. I kind of watched the Iron Man and Fantastic Four. I caught them where I could, but most part, X-Men and Spider-Man were always Saturday morning staples. So,
Right.
um, but yeah, the toys that went with them, even if the characters didn't appear on the show or whatnot, I mean, you couldn't have asked for better selection, and they did. They went obscure and deep and stuff that I still look at it. I'm like, well, Marvel Legends still could do that. That'd be cool to do that or redo that one. So.
Oh, totally. Like honestly, like I personally go back and look at old toy lines all the time for inspiration on either character selection or costume selection, all sorts of stuff like that. Like it's like
Mhm.
that's come on, man, and we can't pretend that we automatically can do it better. You know what I mean? Like it's like
Yeah.
I always I like to be respectful of what's come before for sure.
No, that's cool, dude. And especially with me because in having all these old toys still and then getting new legends, I love kind of pulling them all out again and going like, yeah, this is what you had. And a lot of people go, it's totally better figure now. Like, look at the articulation on the old one. And I'm like, yeah, but this is what you had. And this is like, you played with this thing, till the cows came home. You know what I mean? Like this, there was more to it than just like nowadays with collecting, you pull them out of the package and some people just display them or maybe you take photos, stuff like that. This was like plain, you mash them together, you throw them into a vehicle, you push it off a cliff or
Yeah.
something like that. So
And
there
like
was, yeah.
I bring it like it's like if we're working on like I can use like old, like somewhat older examples, but like it like if Hasbro hires us to do digital sculpting for the new Man Thing build a figure, which was the Marvel Knights wave build a figure.
Hmm.
Um, I dug out my Marvel Legends Man Thing, which was a cool figure at the time, and I brought that into work. And like the sculptor and myself, we sat there and we looked at it and we're like, this is what works. This is what we think is cool. This is what could be better. And uh, obviously we did that with Sasquatch as well, and like any of
Hmm.
those, it's like I own all of them, man. Like I have every single wave of Toybiz Marvel Legends, and then like obviously a ton of the 5-inch stuff as well. But like it's like we look back at it and it's like, okay, if we're gonna we want to be respectful of the past, we want to update it so that way guys that don't have the old figure can have one now,
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like,
Hmm.
and that's an important thing for people to keep in mind as well. It's like, oh God, it's the 800th Spider-Man, and it's like, yeah, but not everyone has been collecting as long as like you have, and like there are people that have been collecting even longer that have like tons, and it's cool, it's fine. You need to refresh some of these, so that way it's available for new fans at all times.
That's a good point. And as much as I go like, there's another Spider-Man, that's always like the first one I'm like probably after too, because I have so many Spider-Mans, but it's just one of those characters. Like I always attribute like Venom or Optimus Prime or Silver Surfer, Ghost Rider. Anytime they make a new character or a figure of that particular character, it's gravitational. Like I just gotta get it. You know what I mean? Like it's.
Dude, totally, yeah. Like it's like I'm definitely an Optimus Prime addict. I have Optimus Primes of all different scales, some that transform, some that don't transform. It's like I literally I have that same problem. It's cool, and like I do it with Snake Eyes. Like I'm with the new Snake Eyes, obviously I've made so many custom Snake Eyes figures over my years that I have at least a half a dozen customs that I've made. And then the 3 3/4 inch stuff, I love 3 3/4. It's what I grew up with. I grew up with Star Wars, and then I had the line of my youth that I love to this day is G.I. Joe, because it had more articulation than Star Wars, and it was like I just loved those toys so much that it's permanently ingrained in my body to love that scale because of Star Wars and G.I. Joe. And G.I. Joe had me rebuy the same characters in, a million different costumes and rebuy better iterations of those costumes as they went, 25th anniversary and on. So it's like, I've bins and bins of, duplicates of figures and like all sorts of stuff.
No, that's the bin is a very useful invention for us collectors sometimes. I'll tell you that. The thing, and for me, I grew up. I played with Ghostbusters, Transformers. I had GI Joe. I was never the GI Joe, huge GI Joe fan. I would say more Star Wars, but I appreciate and see everything that you can do with that scale. You can have the giant USS flag. You can have the vehicles. You can have so many weapons and things. And much like Superpowers or Star Wars or any of those smaller type, you get play sets and you get things, more of a world to kind of play in. Whereas sometimes 6, 7, 8 inch, you don't necessarily get that. And it's unfortunate because I know a lot of days I would love to see those types of things still be, for those larger scales, but it's hard. And especially in how the toy landscape has changed in recent years. It's a shame because back then, we had people always say, "Oh, we're living in the golden age now." The 80s was like the golden age of
play sets, man. We used to have play sets all the time. Like that's I say that as someone who lives in, I'm from New York, lived in New York in small apartments, and I'm in Los Angeles now, small apartments in Los Angeles. So it's like I don't have the room for them, but I loved play sets. And no, I guess the equivalent these days, and you're right. I don't think that we're gonna ever see play sets much like that again, unless it's from someone like Super 7 that it's hundreds and hundreds of dollars and that's what it is. But you have the dio makers out there that do amazing work that I guess that's a cool option for people, that's out there in the world. I know that I wish I had the space to be able to display big environments and stuff. I mostly just have shelves with action figures posed on them. I do have little dio stuff here and there. I bought for my Star Wars Black series figures, I actually bought a bunch of the Star Wars Unleashed statues that Hasbro put out a few years ago on eBay when they were on sale a couple years ago, because nobody wanted them anymore. No one Star Wars Unleashed, I guess, was kind of popular at the time, but not very. And I bought them on eBay for a lot of them for cheap. And then I tore the statues off, and you have the stairs that Darth Vader is walking down, the little platforms over the fiery lava that Anakin and Obi-Wan are fighting on. And I display my Black Series figures on the bases from Star Wars Unleashed figures.
See, that's funny you say that, because even when they did those centerpieces for the Black Series line, 2 years ago now maybe, they had Vader kind of walking over the blasted down door, and they had Luke in the X-wing gear No, it was Hoth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
it had it down to AT-AT, sorry. And I liked though, and I asked them recently, you guys ever think about, maybe, you know what I mean? I'm like, see, those, I like those because you can display them, you put other figures with them. It just reminded me of stuff that, growing up with it. Even though it's pre-posed, even though Vader he's a statue essentially, it makes for a really cool display. Like you're telling a story, on your shelf. So.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, like it's also with my Black series, Gentle Giant had, Gentle Giant Ltd had the Star Wars license for a while and did Star Wars bookends, and they had one that was Han versus Greedo, like at the table, like the Mos Eisley Cantina table, and split bookends, but they were like fully sculpted. I nabbed a set of those from work. I ripped the statue of Greedo out and the statue of Han out, and like I have that on my shelf too. Like it's like so it's like bookends, but like it's fudgeable scale wise. It works. Like it looks pretty cool, and like it's a nice little element that sets it apart on my shelf. But
I totally agree, and you know what? I do that a lot with Jack Specific's Super Mario line. I know that's a line to me that's like a guilty pleasure because it comes out every once in a while, but they've started doing levels, and you could kind of string them all together to create like a giant Nintendo level if you really wanted to. But over the years, I've pulled from like McDonald's toys and things I've cut out or Nintendo promotional giveaways and stuff, and I've kind of created like background stuff or things to make it kind of look a little bit 3D within those levels and stuff, and it's fun to kind of do it yourself. Back in the day, you rely on toy companies to kind of do it all for you, but it's kind of like a learned thing, and I feel like you're saying the same thing of it's fun to create stuff on your own, utilizing what's kind of existent, and it's funny what kind of goes together at the end of the day to create all that.
I have Mario like a dedicated shelf as well. It's a mix of the SHF stuff and the Jack stuff. I actually just ordered. I finally got it. I think Walmart had it, the red Toad, because like I had the blue Toad as my stand-in for my Toad, but I finally got the red Toad, and then I even bought, and I think it was like a company made it maybe for Amiibos, but it's basically a fudgeable scale for the SHF Mario line of the steps with the flag.
I got it from GameStop for $10.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I got it like I have that too, and I got it really cheap, and I'm like, it's awesome. I love it so much, and it's like, it wasn't made for this, but it's perfect. It's like it stands in. I love it.
I took the Amiibo flag off and put the correct Nintendo the thing at the end of every original Super Mario level, and you're absolutely right. It works perfectly. You could put all the characters on it. Mario can run up the. It's definitely excellent. It's just funny, because it was for Amiibos, and I remember walking into GameStop, and they had a clearance thing, and I was like, it's $10. I'll try it. I'll see if it works. And the Jacks or SH, they work perfectly with them.
Yeah, and like I just love it because I have a 6.5-year-old, and he's really into, I think it's Super Mario Run that he plays.
Oh yeah, on
so
iPad.
he loves playing with the figures too, and like the fact that that Amiibo staircase is like modular, it's like Legos basically, so it's like he can build it in all different ways and loves playing with it, so it's very cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's always fun to for my little one, playing the Switch, being in quarantine. I bought one just before like this all kind of happened, and it got delivered 2 weeks in, and this is when everyone starts going, they're all sold out because everyone's bored at home. Then they decide, let's buy video game stuff, and it's been a blast kind of introducing like, this is Mario Odyssey, or this is Luigi's Mansion, and just they get a kick out of you playing it, or you kind of show them how to play it. So that's
awesome.
Yeah,
my little guy, his birthday is in October, and he's already asking for a Switch. Like he's like, he wants the Switch. I have the little USB Nintendo Classic system, the
Oh,
NES
nice.
Classic
Yeah.
Edition. So it's like we play 1, 2, and 3 on that. I have a Nintendo 64 hooked up for some Mario Kart action, and then obviously he's playing Run on like iPad, which is cool. But yeah, I love introducing it, because it's like that's a game that like I grew up with and loved so much. So it's cool.
You always have to have. I still have N64 and SNES. It's hooked up to this day. I think it's maybe gone a couple months here and there, and since it's been introduced, where it's never been hooked up to a television. But it's just they're classic to play with, and I'm just amazed they're still in working condition because I've drove those things in the ground.
Yeah,
especially with Mario Kart.
People people ask me about like, do you play video games and stuff, and I'm like, not modern ones. Like I appreciate them, man. Like I buy toys based off of modern video games that I don't even like know much about. Like it's like I buy the NECA God of War figures and stuff, stuff like that, where it's like I don't like, I just like the design and look, but I don't have the time really to devote. I mean, like, I guess I probably do in quarantine, but I tell myself that I don't have the time to devote to modern video games. But like playing something classic where it's just like, I'm gonna just bang out a couple levels and like that's it, and it's cool, like done.
I agree. And I, forever long, Switch has been out now, maybe like close to 3 or 4 years. Being I just got one, I'm in the same boat. I just find myself not having the time or the attention span. I mean, back in the day, you gave me like Legend of Zelda, Ocarina, or Super Mario 64. I'd play it, and day and night. And nowadays it is a little bit harder, but I devoted like maybe an hour or two, maybe every other night or something like that. And I got through Super Mario Odyssey, and it'd be one of the first times in a long time where I actually played the game like a modern video game. Because you're right, I have like Cyberpunk 2077 figures, and I got the Ghost figure from Call of Duty. I know 2077 is not out yet, but I'm not too familiar with modern video games outside of Mario. Mario's always still been my thing, but they look like fun games, but I actually like the figures a whole heck of a lot. So I wish I had more time in the day sometimes.
And it's crazy, like, because like I have the awesome ability to be able to work from home right now. So like we're still cranking away doing prototyping for Hasbro, Mattel, Diamond, Dark Horse, you name it, working for all these guys, and I have my sculpting team all working remotely. My print techs and my painters are all we're going into the studio here and there where we have like whenever we can. I go in like once or maybe twice a week to go in, photograph prototypes or box stuff up, ship it out. So we'll hand things off, but we're able to like do all of this work remotely right now, and man, like working from home, like you would think it's like, I have so much more time to do stuff, but it's like I almost find that I'm working more. Like I feel like I spend, because I get up in the morning, like my little guy has me up like at like 6 a.m. or so, and then I'm going to sleep at like 10:30 or 11 at night, and it's like I'm still doing work over that entire, like while I'm awake I'm checking work emails and doing things. So it's like, yeah, I'm doing other things as well, like I'll do some laundry or I'll do this and that and like start to prep something for dinner. But it's like I'm also working throughout like much longer than a normal day. So I'm like, God, like it's kind of exhausting.
Yeah, no joke. I mean, and it's also because like everything is occurring within space where you are, and you don't have that divide of going out to work or going out to the store. So for me, everything is kind of started to blend together. Whereas I base days off like what I got in the mail. You know what I mean? I'm like, exactly. I got that figure. No, you know what I mean? It's just like we need that division sometimes of family and work and play and everything else. But I mean, it is what it is, and I think it's at the point where everyone's just kind of realizing like, okay, like I don't know how much more I can do of staying home, in the sense of like this is what we do, you know.
That is
So
like that is the one like the nice that like I'm probably not supposed to be talking about this because California is still the stay at home order has been extended, but it's like we're being smart about it, like we're not doing like it's like nobody is in direct contact with one another. We're not all hanging out in places, but it's like we are heading into work here and there to go swap out projects and turn over stuff and leave stuff for me and leave stuff for other guys. And it's like it's working out really well, like it's like this. We can make this work. And the nice thing about that is that I do get to have a little bit of a change of scenery. Like it's like get out of the house for like an hour or two, like once or twice a week. That's not just I'm running to Target or Trader Joe's or grocery store for, necessities. I'm going to go by the studio, swing by the studio. And I do get to see another human from more than 6 feet away who's also wearing a mask. So it's weird, but, it is nice also. Like, it's like,
Oh, totally. And like, even before we started the interview, it's like, you kind of saying the same thing. It's nice to do this type of talking because, let's say, my girlfriend's, I'm not telling her like, hey, guess what happened in the toy world today? She's like, I don't care. Talk to somebody else about it.
Exactly. We were talking about this. Like, it's like I've been hanging out on the Toy Amigos podcast, chatting with those guys. And it's
they're awesome. I love those guys.
They started this daily podcast thing during the quarantine just because like it's a good distraction, like it's nice to be able to talk about toys and that's it. And like that's why I've been doing it. Like besides the fact that they're really cool guys and that they invited me to be on it, I feel like it's a great thing for me, like even mentally, like it's like I get to go on this podcast and talk about toys with people I dig, and it's like I'm doing it with you right now. It's like it's a nice change of scenery, and it's I think good mental health kind of deal.
Yeah, and I think that from doing this with other people and interviewing them, I like it just in terms of how we're talking now. It's not meant to be anything like reveal stuff like what's Marvel Legends doing. It's more like who are you as a person, what are you working on, and tell me your mindscape right now. What's the whole situation, because that's ultimately what I'm more interested in.
You and I are going to be on that on Friday. We're going to both be on that Facebook live stream watching to see what reveals the Marvel team does.
Oh yeah. Well, see, that's for me. It's like I'm looking for every time when they kind of give you like a heads up. I like that, and I'm glad I have you on because I try to incorporate a lot of Toybiz, Marvel Legends, and everything. This never really want to know exactly what's going to be revealed because I still like to be surprised. You know what I mean? I'm like, ooh, what's it going to be? You know what I mean? So hopefully it's going to be something amazing.
Well, we do I would say we do probably 75% or so of the digital sculpting for Hasbro Marvel Legends. So it's like, we don't do all of it by any means. And it's like, I think it goes here and there. They have lots of talented sculptors in-house. They have guys that they use just like they use Gentle Giant. But I do happen to know a lot of what happens with Marvel, but I do get surprised as well. And the cool thing about they use us for digital prototyping. So like back in the day, we used to do everything. We would do like for Hasbro, we still do it for a lot of other companies, but we used to do digital sculpting, 3D printing, molding, casting, paint masters, tooling masters. But for the Hasbro Marvel team, like for a lot of Hasbro stuff, they just hire digital sculptors, and then they do a lot of the other stuff in-house or overseas with their factories. So a lot of the times I'm seeing the physical objects for the first time when they're revealed too, like I've only seen the digital sculpt of it. So, San Diego Comic-Con, New York Comic-Con, the Facebook live stream, I'm going to be seeing this stuff like in its physical form for the first time a lot of time, which is, that's fun too. Like it's cool. It's
how does it feel that when you work on this stuff, knowing that, your stuff is, going to people, like people going and buying your artwork, basically. Like it's got to be. I've always thought about that. It's got to be like the greatest thing ever. Just to know that people are enjoying, and we'll be having these things for many many years to come.
You like it's funny because it's like there's two sides of it, just like there is to everything, like, and I've been in the internet business, like as a fanboy, dating back to Raving Toy Maniac and Action Figure Times, and like we're talking about like the early 2000s, probably even the late 1990s, like early 2000s, like website toy nerd stuff. And like you develop a thick skin over the many years because of how many people tell you that the stuff you work on sucks. So it's nice. I love when people are happy about stuff. It's amazing. But like, to me, and like it's like all these guys that I'm working with, like we're all artsy fartsy guys, so we basically, for the most part, it's like nothing is ever perfect. It's always like see it and it's like you see what's wrong with everything. It's like, I should have done this differently, or I can't believe they painted it this way and like didn't, or like or quality control comes out weird and you're just like, come on, like, so it's like it's always like this weird situation where it's like, hey, you're proud of it because it is kind of your baby, but at the same point you're just like, no, I would have done this differently, so it's like it's cool. I love it. I love my job. I'm I would never change it for the world. I obviously, not only do I keep doing it for Gentle Giant, but doing this now with Cursed Dead and Mortal Ruin, it's like I want to do this for the rest of my life. I want to make toys. I don't care how lucrative financially it is, because it's not. It's a job. It's work. It is hard. And yeah, it's just it's also something I'm totally passionate about. Like I love this stuff, and it's great having my son into toys. Like I've definitely totally warped his world, and like I try to steer him away from too much video game. Like video games is a lot newer that we're stepping into that world, because I want him to play with toys. I want him to appreciate toys, and he does. And even like with the video game stuff now, like where it's like he's messing with like Roblox and Minecraft, it's like we'll go and we will buy Roblox and Minecraft toys, and it's like you get a certain amount of time on the iPad to play with the stuff, but you can also play with the toys, so it's like I'm really trying to ingrain that with him, because like I feel like it's just, I'm going off, I'm getting up on my soapbox here, but playing with toys, it's like it's creative. Like you're sitting there and you're creating storylines and you're using your imagination and you're doing it yourself. And in video games, and that's not to take away from the art of video games, because it's like, God help me, like I know plenty of guys in the video game industry. It's like, it is art. It's like absolutely creative. But I feel like playing video games, while it like there is a lot that goes into it, I don't think that you're getting that same level of imagination and creativity and that kind of play pattern. Like you're more being guided through something. And I think that that gets lost with kids that aren't playing with toys these days and just are, playing video games.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I agree about the iPad. And we did, we grew up with Nintendo and Game Boy and all that kind of stuff. But we also had toys, and I remember quite fondly mainly having, the collecting aspect, and then finally coming into my own and going, oh, okay, I understand, like, you need to get all these characters. You know what I mean? That was kind of ingrained in us back in the day. But it's one of those things where you need both. You can have your iPad or Nintendo or Game Boy times or whatever else, but playing, whether it be for action figures, toys, little like younger kids' toys, whatever, even like a ball, a swimming pool, whatever. Kids need that, and especially today, I think that's seems to be a big thing that's missing when you see kids, because back years and years ago when I was younger and I was like a waiter, at a restaurant, they'd always bring their kids in, and they'd have iPads, and the kids just sit there mindless. I'm like, here's some crayons and some stuff you can play with. And they're like, no, they have the iPad, they're fine. I'm like, really?
Yeah,
Like, they don't want to do that.
Don't want to turn them into screen zombies. Come on, guys.
Yeah, and you know what? And then you would just kind of watch the parents talk or do whatever, and the kids just are there, and
it's like as a parent, I get that, like, it's like, oh, we want time at adult time, but it's like you can do that with like toys and stuff too, like it's like,
totally.
I know that I like beam with pride whenever I see him playing with toys and he starts making sound effects, like he's just so deep into it. It's because like I remember doing that, and I like my mom will talk about it to this day, like where she would walk by my room and I'm like, I got G.I. Joes and Star Wars figures and He-Man figures and Thundercats, and they're all laying out, and I'm like, messing around with them, creating stories in my head, and I'm just making like explosion noises and laser noises and stuff with them, like, and that's all she hears. Like she hears me just making weird little noises and stuff. And like my son does that, and I'm like, oh my God, it's the greatest. I love it so much.
Oh, I'll tell you what. I was in it's a sub sandwich shop, Jersey Mike's. Like this had to have been in January because it was before everything started. And a little kid in front of me in line, he was kind of like playing with some toys, and he goes, "Hey, Mom, I want to grab the one in your bag." And he pulled it out, and it was the new Marvel Legends thing, from the new Super Scroll. And I hadn't seen that in years because the kid had put the quarter in, turn the dial kind of toys he was playing with. But when he pulled out the thing, I was like, that's a cool kid.
That's awesome.
I was like, man, I have not seen a kid in public or anything else like that have an action figure in so long. And I just totally blew me away. I was like, how funny is that and recently getting the wave myself, I'm like, cool kid. I'm like, you're aces.
I love that. I love it even more that it's one that we worked on too.
Oh really? Yeah. No, that's why it was so random too, because I'm like, wow, these just came out. Like, your mom must have just gone to the store, and then I'm like, all these things in my head. I'm like, is he a fan of Fantastic Four? Like, how does he know what the thing? You know what I mean? I'm like, is it just like a random, like, hey, I saw this in the store? I'm like, well, parents have got to be fans somehow. The thing is not just a toy you pick up. Yeah. So
exactly.
But no, that's awesome. In terms of what you've done in the past, toys you've worked on, everything else, what's the one you're most proud of? Is there one? I know you've been doing a lot of stuff on Instagram where you've been answering questions, which I really like, by the way. I like that you kind of post stuff, like you did one with Spider-Man recently, and I'm jealous of your Miles Morales. By the way, I got to do that hack somehow. Of putting the tennis shoes.
The clothing set from CJSM, like it's so great. I mean, like obviously there's also the Mafex version of Into the Spider-Verse models that's coming. That'll be like that, like it's cool. Like I ordered that one too. So like man, I collect so much stuff, but stuff that I worked on. Well, actually to talk about we were talking about containers earlier. So this challenge, my fiance, she came up with this. She actually works at DC Comics, and she does social media for DC Kids and DC Superhero Girls. So she social medias. She knows, like I'm old. I don't understand social media quite as much. I bumble my way around it. But she was like, she came up with this idea. She's like, why don't I challenge you the month of May? I'm going to ask you a question every day, and you have to answer it with something that you've worked on, take photos and stuff. So talking about containers, my God, I've been pulling out like my Rubbermaid bins. I'm sitting in the second bedroom, which is my son's room / my man cave, toys everywhere, and Rubbermaid bins, all tops open, pouring toys out. It's one of the great things that I've found about both this challenge and the quarantine is rediscovering all these toys that I do have that, like, buy as a new toy, and you mess with it for a little bit, and then you throw it into a bin, or you throw it into the closet, or you put it on your shelf, and it's like appreciating that stuff that we already have and that is really cool instead of just the next thing. And I say that as I have Baron Benz sitting next to me right now. So like trust me, I'm getting new toys on a daily basis as well. But going through all these bins and discovering all this stuff, and she's asking me all these questions about like stuff that we've worked on, what I like, and like, man, it's so hard because it's like I keep finding new things, like and today's that you mentioned, Spider-Man's, like it's like I took the picture and then I realized like 10 minutes later I'm like, I didn't include the 12-inch Hasbro Spider-Man I just worked on. I have the Spider-Man Pez dispenser. I have like so much Spider-Man stuff that I've worked on over, like I've been doing this since 2001. So it's like we're getting really close to doing this for 2 decades now. Like I've worked on a lot of Spider-Man stuff. So like it's absolutely ridiculous. But my favorites, Star Wars is near and dear to me. It was such a huge deal when Hasbro had us work on introducing the Hasbro Star Wars Black series line. So like my mom tells people to this day that I was potty trained with the promise of a new Kenner Star Wars action figure. So and then like, of course I give her crap and I'm like, but Mom, when I was 12 and I still wanted to buy toys all the time, you told me I was too old. So what about that, Mom? But I the Star Wars line, they had us do the X-Wing pilot Luke. And that one really stands out because it's like, it was out of the blue. We got contacted by a high up guy at Hasbro, and he was like, wanted to internally pitch doing a brand new scale for Star Wars. And they basically, and it's like, you can look at the Gentle Giant LTD mini bust, but they were like, hey, the Gentle Giant LTD mini bust of Luke in his X-Wing gear, we want that level of a sculpt, but as an articulated 6-inch action figure. And we did the digital sculpt, we printed it out, we painted it, and we sent an actual physical Paintmaster prototype off to Hasbro, and Hasbro used that to pitch the line internally. And then, the next thing we're working on the San Diego Comic-Con Boba Fett, obviously the Sand Trooper, Darth Maul, all Wave 1 characters, R2-D2. So yeah, we worked on the first like 5, 6, 7 waves, and then a few figures here and there afterwards. So that one was a really big deal to me. But I can't say it's 100% Star Wars with the level of Marvel zombie that I am. And like working the Marvel Universe line with Vonner was great, but once I got to start working on Legends, which was like, basically like we had worked with both, like I had worked with Toybiz back in the day here and there on random little things, and then Hasbro during the Dark Ages on a few figures here and there, like when they were releasing like the 2-packs. It's like we worked on the Iron Man parts for Deadpool for the 2-pack, and Warpath and the Hand Ninja. So we'd done parts and pieces and stuff during the Dark Ages, but like once it got into like, we did the Bucky Cap body, and we did the Terrax Build-A-Figure, and the Arnim Zola Build-A-Figure, and then
I still love that figure, by the way. Arnim
so
Zola.
it's like those are the early ones where we started establishing the new style, the new look, the articulation breakdown. Those are when I was just like beaming with pride, and I was like, no, this is what Marvel Legends could be. And it's like, that's, you and I were talking about this earlier, like Marvel Legends is so consistent these days. Like it's consistently good that it's like, it's really nice, and it's nice to continue to be able to work on this line with Hasbro. Like every time we get a new job in, I love it. I'm so excited, like I talk to the guys on my team, and we figure out who's going to work on what, and it's like we have a really good in-house team of guys that love Marvel, that love Marvel Legends, and that love this kind of work. So, you know, Marvel Legends, probably the brown costume Wolverine might be
Oh
like,
yeah.
like that might be the one.
I just took a picture of him this morning for my Hearts of Darkness post that I
Oh,
did.
Hearts of Darkness, love it. Yeah, Ghost Rider, Punisher, Wolverine. I have that, like, because that wasn't even like a regular comic, but it wasn't like a trade either. It was like kind of like a skinny-ish trade, right? Like it was
Yeah.
like it was a like kind of like a softback cardboard cover, but it was like a whole like more. It was longer than just a regular issue.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what I think also would be cool for Legends to kind of do eventually is to, because you guys with the X-Men, you know, in the 90s is coming back so full force, whether it be Marvel or DC or any type of brand. You know, it'd be cool to have those old comic book packs again in some way. You know, when I did the old Toybiz video a couple weeks back of Hearts of Darkness with the Ghost Rider, it was like an FAO Schwartz exclusive, and so many people go, "Oh man, like that would be so cool if, you know, Hasbro did like a 3-pack." And I agree. I'm like, you know, yes, we probably would already have the figures in some sense, but if you gave them like the darker colors, it would just invoke so much nostalgia. That you got me. You got me with, everybody gets me with nostalgia these days from Ghostbusters and everything else. So, no, that's I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, because you know it's not all the time. You know, for appreciating a figure, you don't always know the artist or you know the developer or whoever kind of put the labor of love and the work into this. So I'm always happy to talk to you and know that. You know what you worked on, and
it's all. I mean, like, keep in mind, like, and not. I know you know this, but like your listeners, that like there's a lot of guys out there. Like there are a lot of guys involved in this stuff, and it's like I know, like some of them, like, you know, myself, like it's like, oh, we have a presence online, we have an Instagram account or Facebook page or whatever, but it's like, there are other guys that you just like that don't have this stuff, or that, like, you know, like people are working on bits and pieces and here and there, and it's like, you know, there's so many different creative guys behind these toy lines that we all collect, that it's like, I mean, like it's something where, you know, I don't know that it always works with like giving people credit. You know, like Art Asylum started doing that back in the day, where they would put credit on the box, and then, you know, Palisades started doing it afterwards, and then, like, you know, I did it, like, when I made the packaging for Articulated Icons, I put, you know, creators on names on there. So it's like I like it, but like at the same point, I get why, you know, like Hasbro can't do stuff like that, because there is so many more people involved that it's like, then who credit and who don't you credit, and like then it becomes weird. So, you know, but there are a lot of super talented people involved in these lines that we all collect.
Yeah, and it's funny to see, you know, all that work come together, because, you know, even in talking to, like, a friend of mine, Jesse DeStasio, who does you know, Toy Pizza.
Well. Yeah.
And I talked to him not too long. Oh, it was actually a little bit towards the end of last year, but to hear him describe, you know, the fact that toys even get made and how they get made is a miracle sometimes. There's so much that needs to fall into place perfectly. It's not just like, oh, I want to make this. Okay. And then it just pops up on the shelves. It's like a ton of work.
Oh, yeah.
And then scheduling.
It's an investment, like both financially and emotionally, you know, like it's like, it's a serious undertaking, man. Like it's no joke.
Yeah. So that's why when I talk about toys, or even if I go on my YouTube and I talk about, you know, I'm always saying, like, yes, maybe this didn't come out perfectly. Maybe this isn't the fact, but the fact that it got made, I mean, you can appreciate it in that sense. And, you know, maybe the next one, we'll see what happens. But I like having the old ones to kind of compare and look at. You know, people always say, "Oh, do you sell your stuff?" I'm like, no, I got way too much stuff. Maybe I should, but it's always what you want to go back. Like, if you got rid of something and something new comes out, you'd kick yourself. Be like, oh, how do I not have that anymore? Oh, I sold that. You know what I mean? Or something like that. So
I'm basically a hoarder as well. So
yeah. We're all toy collectors or hoarders in some way, shape, or form. You just don't know it yet. When you're 60, 70, and they find you dead in your house covered in stuff, then it's okay. couple cats, 17 coffee pots. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, just,
So this is hit close to home.
right? I know we've been talking for an hour, and I like to keep this around an hour. And like I said, people always ask me, like, how come you don't do like a video thing? We want to watch it. I'm like, no, this is meant specifically for if you got stuff going on, you got to drive somewhere or something. It's more like listening, and it's something you can listen to while you're doing other things. And I know I so appreciate you being here. I'll wrap it up because I know you probably got things to do. But what ultimately with Mortal Ruin and then Cursed Dead and everything, like, what's your ultimate goal? Where do you want to see it go once you finally start launching it and everything?
I mean, like the big thing with both of those lines is being able to do something start to finish that is our own, that it's like, and doing it with guys that are my friends that I love and I trust, and like making toys together, and like it's as simple as that. It's our creative outlet, and it's like I would love to make either of those lines my focus in life. Like, it would be great if like that was it. That's all I had to do. But at the same point, it's like I would like my day job is great. I get to work on Marvel Legends. I get to work on Mattel WWE. I get to work on Diamond Marvel Select and Westworld and Black Hole and Rocketeer. So it's like I love my job. But yeah, man, like Cursed Dead and Mortal Ruin, it's about doing it start to finish, and doing it start to finish, like having that creative control and doing it with my friends that I've been, making toys like, for almost 2 decades with now at this point.
Yeah, that's awesome. No, and I wish you just the absolute luck. Please keep me posted on everything, because I'll definitely throw it up on the old ToyShiz Instagram and everything else. And
very much appreciate it. I mean, like, that's what it's all about right now for both of those lines. It's just about, getting people interested, so that way when we do start launching stuff, that we have kind of like a built-in audience that is interested in it. So, like that, every little bit helps, and, it's so appreciated that you've covered it, both of the lines, as much as you have, and, having me on here now.
Yeah,
man, like that's, I couldn't ask for anything more. It's great.
Well, I'll tell you, just to kind of share, you did send me a tease of something the other day, and from what I saw, I was in my head, I was like, oh, we could go with that. Oh, we could go with that. And the colors you have on that thing, that's gonna make for one stellar figure. But we won't give that away.
No, dude, it's coming. Those images are gonna be coming very soon. Anyone that's listening along, they can follow me. I'm playing with myself on. I'm like, yeah, exactly. My personal website is playing with myself. It's like, basically, if you Google Adam Van Wickler or Google playing with myself, you'll find me. Your Google search history with playing with myself might be weird, but yeah, I've the website playingwithmyself.com. I'm playing with myself on Instagram. I'm playing with myself on Facebook. I have a Twitter.
I love how that all works. I'm just playing with myself on Facebook. You're like, okay,
exactly.
People writing.
Yeah,
I'll put links as well in the description. So
I really thought it was so clever when I came up with it, and it's just like, yeah, it's clever. It's a little bit risque, but clever. Yeah, sure.
I think in this day and age, it definitely works, especially within the context. Once you know who you are, you're like, of course, that totally works. We would all play with ourselves with toys back. That even sounds bad. Never mind. You made this podcast
suddenly gone R-rated.
Right?
Right at the end.
Good. Now I can hit that not safe for children button on YouTube once I post it. Well, thank you, sir. Like I said, I'll post all your links and where you can find and Cursed Dead and all that kind of stuff. And look for Adam's updates. I'll have updates on my ToyShiz account on Instagram and all that for all your work and everything else. And make sure you check out his stuff, because I really like what you and your fiance and everything she challenged you to do throughout this month. So I think that's very cool, and you get to see a lot of your work as well.
It's been a lot of fun. My joke is that she came up with it, like, because she has the social media background, but I think she came up with it to keep me busy so I wouldn't drive her crazy every day. It's like, keep me in the second bedroom toy room digging through bins so that way she can have some peace on her own,
Yeah, it's like you set the kid aside, you know what I mean? As long as I hear digging, I know he's busy. He's not getting into anything.
Exactly.
Well, thank you, sir. We will do this again shortly. I'm sure we'll get some more talking points going next time around, because I know we have so much more to cover. But I just thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, dude.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.